Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for the recap of Stage 15 of the Giro d'Italia, the last stage before the second rest day, as well as the Vuelta a Burgos forward stage women's race in the north of Spain today finished up. I think there was Rundum Col Köln as well, but didn't catch that one. But the Giro stage, the only mountaintop finish in the second week, with a soft mountaintop finish too, from Rivarolo Canavese to Cogna. This is in the Valle d'Aosta region where I've also gone hiking. I managed not to injure myself on those occasions, but I did see some goats. 178 Ks, including the Pilar Les Fleurs, 12.2 Ks, 7%. And it has, I think French is spoken in this region as well, near the French border. Then the Verogna climb, which was included in the Courmayeur stage, in which Carapaz took a lot of time on Nibali and Roglic in 2019, hardest climb of the day. 14 Ks, 7.1% descent, and then the 22K, 4% climb to Cogna, which is 4.5 Ks, 8% at the start, and then gradually gets less and less steep, with the last 10 Ks of this really being nothing more than false flat uphill. So before we get into the main action of the stage, which was at the start, unfortunately, a word on our show partner, Zwift. For stages like this, or if it's a heat wave like it is in this region or in Andorra at the moment, Zwift with the fan on was the perfect go-to today for me. And if you want to check it out yourself and stay on top of your fitness goals in rain, hail, heat wave, or shine, you can go to Zwift.com for a free 7-day trial and bring a friend or meet up with a friend using the meetup functionality in Zwift. Thanks as always to Zwift for being the presenting sponsor of the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast. But the break, Benji, just refused to go, ever.
Yeah, it took so long for a break to actually get away on this stage. You must notice that the initial part of the stage is super flat. So usually on those terrains, it's a bit harder to have a fierce breakaway battle, but people just kept rolling down towards the front then, trying to counter every attack that happened. And one of the teams that was intriguing when they tried to go in the breakaway was Jumbo, very active to try and get multiple riders in there. Also, at a certain point, Cavendish and Demar were trying to mingle themselves because what they were trying to do, I think, is probably not even related to the intermediate sprint, but related to the fact that if they go into the breakaway and the breakaway goes relatively easily at the start of the stage, then they can sit in that breakaway, have an advantage on the peloton, and therefore have an easier day against the time limit today. And perhaps that's what they were trying, but they did not get in the eventual breakaway. Diego Rosa, very active to be in the breakaway as well, but unfortunately, he blew so many attacks initially on this stage that by the time they reached the actual KOM points, he was dropped off the peloton already. So it was not going to be a KOM day for Diego Rosa on this day. It was a day where Koen Bouwman felt like he was going to take revenge for the breakaway because he was in there and he was about to try and snipe everybody for every single one of these KOM points on today's stage, stealing it, the Maglia Rosa from Diego Rosa. I just wanted to get that out of the way. Maya Azura. Oh my God. Yeah. The final of the stage
Jesus,
brought me
not
asleep,
that
mate. I'm waking up again.
But yeah, it almost was like a full 2-hour battle, 50 Ks an hour on the flat. And yeah, it formed on some rollers. Ineos let it go. And then, I mean, maybe this is a consequence of Don Juanpe not being here. Don Juanpe is more likely to control things. And he says, okay, boys, we're going for a P now. Let this break go. Without him, with Carapaz and the Maglia Rosa, not happening. But yeah, huge break. Multiple teams represented with multiple riders. EF with Kudus, Carthy, Court. DSM with Tushfeld, Dens, Aronsman. Alperson with De Bont and MVP. And Jumbo with Omen, Affini, maybe. Definitely Omen, and definitely Bowman. So it's a question of, do you want to pull this break along? Ciccone there with Mollema, I think. Or do you want to try and play those numbers? And yeah, Bowman was aggressive. It was like it was on the Pilar Les Fleurs climb, yeah, the first one. It was like the Caruso or Micah attacks in the Vuelta going really, really long. It's just Bowman does not have the climbing quality of those two riders. He was caught by, and this is the huge, well, I thought it was a mistake at the time, particularly for EF, and it maybe did cost it in the end. EF did not mark properly the moves from the other teams that were represented by multiple riders. You cannot let Alpecin, DSM, and Jumbo go up the road, particularly on that descent, because then they had to completely spend kudos on the second last climb. They were going for Carthy today on the Verona climb. Carthy said he was quite tired at the base of that climb. They were having to chase, and then he had to solo bridge to that group on the second last climb. This is with 55, 60 Ks to go, the hardest climb of the day. So they didn't put themselves in relatively the strongest position to succeed. I would say DSM did.
Yeah.
But Aronsman just didn't have it today. But back in the GC group, on that Verona climb, Benji, Ineos just had Puccio Zwift pace first climb, Puccio Zwift second climb, 4.5 watts per kilo, probably 5 watts per kilo, keeping it big group. UAE, in the very few shots we saw of the GC group, which, by the way, producers, please show the GC group more often, Ulissi started to pace for Almeida. What is the rationale for that?
It was intriguing because, like, if Ulissi is pacing there, you would start to think, okay, they're going to try something. And at that very moment, we saw that Formolo and Costa were both starting to drop at the front from the breakaway. So I was thinking, are they going to try and form some kind of attack? But it's illogical if Ineos still has, like, everybody except Puccio at that time. Even Puccio was probably still in the group at that point when Ulissi was starting to pace. And eventually that led to Puccio being dropped, which is one of the riders of Ineos and definitely not the goal that UAE had set out. And we started to notice that eventually Formolo dropped to that peloton group as well. He did a bit of work, and it felt like he did like max a minute of work to the point where Ineos basically decided to like ride past him and just say like, nah. Bentalet was like, nope, it's not gonna happen, man. Formolo, what are you doing? And Ineos just kept on pacing, and then Costa gradually came back towards the front again at the front in the breakaway. So was there a plan by UAE team Emirates to do something? Was there a plan to, for example, attack at the top of Vergonia, the second last climb? That'd be weird because Almeida's descending is not great. And you would think, well, where else can they attack? It's the start of the final climb that they can do something. But if Ineos is with so many riders, then this will not work. So I didn't see any way where UAE could actually get something out of this stage at that point, either when it comes to gaining time on competition that is notable enough to invest a team effort here, or another attack that would do something here. So I didn't know what they were planning, and eventually it didn't look like it led anywhere.
Completely pointless. I have no idea what they were doing. And yeah, like if anything, pace with Ulissi on that final 4K 8% climb and keep Formolo, keep Costa ahead. Like, it makes absolutely no sense, but I've given up trying to figure out what's happening over there. Anyway, in the breakaway, we had the MVDP dropping on that climb. He completely cracked. Bowman actually blew up. He didn't make it over the top of the second climb, and we had Carthy bridging over to a group of Ciccone. Costa was chasing back on Buitrago and Tushveld, I think. So Carthy made his way back over. I thought he was going to attack them. Ciccone was pulling, surging a little bit. Buitrago was playing coy, but that group made it over the top. Carthy, Tushveld, Buitrago, Ciccone. And we went into the descent. Buitrago, again, like Carthy's not a good descender. He kept losing Ciccone's wheel and then having, again, spending energy before the pivotal final kick up. Forget about GC. Nothing happens from here on out. It's all about the breakaway. We get to that final 4K 8%, and then it's a false light afterwards, and then Carthy goes for a big attack. He's reeled in by Ciccone. Well, Ciccone starts to pull him back. Buitrago's sitting on him. He's like, nah, not pulling you. Attacks him, gets to Carthy, attacks him. Carthy sits on him for a bit and then blows up completely. And Ciccone goes solo with Buitrago and Carthy at the car 30 seconds back. Then you know it's done once he gets to the false flat uphill. I think it was tailwind as well. Impossible to bring back. So Ciccone goes and wins the stage in Konya. Listen, not the best mountain stage you'll ever see. 131 ahead of Buitrago, 219 ahead of Pedrero. Sorry, Pedrero was also in that group. but he chased alone for like an hour, but he must have gone past Carthy. Carthy at 3:09, Tushfeld on 4:36. The only action from the GC group was Guillaume Martin, the philosopher, attacking over the top of the second last climb. No one reacted, and he took 2 minutes. I think, no, he took 150 or 140 on the GC group by pretty much riding his threshold or tempo because no one really cared. Because if you look at GC, the only people he's taking time on are people that don't care. Jan Hirt, he's riding for Pozzo.
Is he?
Yeah.
I think they're trying to get both in GC for UCI points. Or do they
Nah.
don't care about UCI points anymore?
Well, it's hard to know because Hirt, I don't think he could help even if he like wanted to yesterday. But I don't think Intermarché care about UCI points. They shouldn't. They're so clearly safe. So yeah, they don't care enough that they're going to pay Guillaume Martin back for Jan Hirt's ninth on GC. So Martin took some time, and at the end, it was, I think, Carapaz sprinted for the line, and I'm not sure. We haven't seen the official results yet, whether he's been credited with a second on the group. PCS says no. So, yeah, not a stage I'll remember for the rest of my life, Benji.
Yes, certainly. It was kind of expected that we'd have a stage like this after yesterday, that we wouldn't see too much GC action, and it is unfortunately exactly that. The initial part of the stage was spectacular, though. The fight for the breakaway. I think it's always underestimated how hard it is to get into the breakaway. I've spoken with so many riders during this Giro that wanted to be in the breakaway and never really got in there because you got to have some luck with the fact that nobody else responds to your move that you're in. And you also need to have like the strength to try it multiple times to actually be able to get in that breakaway eventually, because you'll have to be really lucky if you only go once, and that's the real one that actually goes. Like Kemna, for example, we spoke about him being so good at getting into breakaways and actually getting something out of that, but he's tried so many times, and for a few days now, he's tried and not actually gotten into the right one that actually goes. And in the end, like, I think that Gemna's still one of those stronger breakaway riders, but when it comes to Ciccone, now that he's not going for GC, how would you rate him versus Gemna in breakaways?
I would still take Kemna over Ciccone. I think Ciccone is probably higher level. Like fifth at Lombardy is a pretty good result. He's got 10th at Tirreno this year, but I think Kemna overall is a bit smarter in breakaways. But yeah, Kemna tried. You saw what you're talking about, Benji. Diego Rosa, he got dropped on the
Yeah.
flat because he tried to get in the break and then completely cooked himself. It's just not as easy as, like, I've been guilty of it saying, get in the break, get in the break. It's like, you don't just put your hand up at the start of the stage and say, I'm going in the break, and then you guys get to go in the breakaway. That's not how it works. But we've got a big week of racing ahead, and GCN Plus, the supporting sponsor of the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast, Giro coverage, has you covered. Not just the Giro's got a rest day tomorrow, but tomorrow they have coverage of Ellen van Dijk's hour record attempt. Make sure you tune into that. I think she's pretty good chance of beating that. She's, I think, huge engine. Tuesday, the Tour of Norway starts. That has Evenepoel and friend of the podcast, Jay Vine, as well as Enemy lining up. So
I disagree.
what?
He's
Who's
not
your
the
enemy?
He's
Your
not my
one's
enemy.
Julius.
Julius van den Berg for ruining the Pascal
Or
Incorn
Maestri.
breakaway a few days ago. Maestri less, because I feel like, I don't know. I feel like Julius was the first one to sit up in that breakaway, so I'm blaming him.
All right, so Benji has an enemy. My enemy is at Tour of Norway against Vine Evenepoel. That's available in all GCN Plus territories, no restrictions, as well as the Circuit de Wallonie on Thursday and the Boucle de la Mayenne on Thursday to Sunday, everywhere except France. So even if that's all live and on demand. So if you're watching the Giro live and want to catch up on those races, GCN Plus is your place to go. All right, Benji, rest day tomorrow. The Giro, it's only getting started. Still small gaps. Let's remind everybody of what the GC positions are going into that second rest day. Carapaz first, 7 seconds behind is Hindley. 30 behind is Almeida, the best time trialist of all of them. Lander on 59, Pozzo on 101, Bilbao 152, Buchmann 2 minutes. So, and Nibali 258. One Pay will just try and survive for top 10. He's on 404, then there's a huge gap to Guillaume. Well, I think Ineos were clearly being defensive today, but going into this third week, which they've heavily backloaded in terms of parkour difficulty, I think Bora have to be extremely happy. What do you, if you're Landa, are you still going for the win? Are you still going out for a knockout blow in the third week? I think he's still like 59. That's not that much if you go hard on these big mountain stages to come.
Yes, certainly, and he's like close to that podium as well. I think he first wants to set his eyes on the podium and try and slip onto that. Try and hope for some weakness in the likes of an Almeida, a Hindley, or a Carapaz somehow. Won't be easy. But next to that, I feel like Landa can be the defensive option at Bahrain, while Bilbao can try and do the larger moves because he's sitting in that sixth spot. He can be the rider that they want to risk more with, and therefore he might be able to attack in a descent somewhere. We'll talk about the stages like of the next week in the rest day pod, right?
Yeah, we'll go through all the stages then, but yeah, I'm sort of trying to assess who is happiest on the bus right now. I think Bora, because they have the best domestique. I think I would take Kelderman over Port, over Castro, who looked okay today. But yeah, I'd take Kelderman maybe over Bilbao.
They've got two of the best domestiques because like Buchmann's not necessarily a
Nah, he's not a
domestique yet.
domestique.
He's still 7, but the second he
Useless.
loses more time, he's going to be a domestique. I don't think he's useless. I disagree with you.
I'll wait to
He's
see it.
actually he's riding really well at the moment. He's still 7th. I feel like he's more likely to try attacking stuff than Hindley in the next week to like upset things. But when it comes to Bora's position, we have to keep in mind that the final time trial benefits Almeida over Hindley and Carapaz, for example. So I'd argue that Hindley and Carapaz need to gain time by that time trial, which is doable looking at the parkour of the third week if Almeida stays on the same level. But if Almeida starts to improve and is able to climb better at a certain point, then there might be some danger there. I think all three in the top three have the chance of winning this race. And I don't know about Landa personally. I just don't see him winning this Giro, but hey, this could be proving me wrong in another week. I just feel like his fight is with the podium, even though he should probably still fight for the victory himself personally. But when it comes to like the rest of the top 10, can I just tell you that Vincenzo Nibali is closer in GC than the moment that Steven Kruijswijk rode into that snow barrier at the Giro that Nibali ended up winning in the final week? Like, just imagine Vincenzo Nibali doing something crazy in week 3. I'm down for it. I kind of don't believe in it, but I also didn't believe that he would be this good at the moment.
He's in better shape now than in that race in 2016. Like his level is better or at least equal, so which is mental. But the level of the other riders has gone up. Yeah, I was being facetious saying Bookman, but I was just more referring to on the flat yesterday. People don't realize it was Hindley pulling with Bookman in the wheels. So Bora should be very, very happy with their position, but at the end of the day, as Benji said, it only matters if you use Bookman to attack in this third week, which we expect and think they should do at some point because Carapaz, put pressure on Castro and Port and Sivakov to try and be there. And they might not even be there. But that's all from us today. Got the rest day tomorrow. Not too much racing on then. And we'll be back on Tuesday with Tour of Norway, quick recap, although I'll have main highlights on the Lanterne Rouge YouTube channel, so go and check them out, as well as, of course, the Africa stage, big mountain stage 16 at the Giro. Thanks as always for listening. If you want to give us a review or a rating on podcast players, that helps a lot, or subscribing on YouTube, and we'll see you with the rest day recap tomorrow. Ciao.